All right. Well, welcome back to our seminars. It's our first one of the season for 2026. We've got them set up all the way through mid-May. May have some additional ones coming up, so we're trying to get some other people in here other than just Dennis or I, which is why Dwayne is here. Dwayne's been a long-time associate with the Woodsmith store, all-around great guy, very knowledgeable. It's helped a lot of customers over the years, and so Dwayne, we really appreciate you here at the store.
Thanks.
So
I try.
Thanks for taking the time to be here.
Sure.
He's going to talk about hand planes. Originally, we were going to do this a combo seminar. We're doing hand planes and power planes. I have a feeling we're going to run out of time just with the hand plane side. So if we do run out of time, we'll talk about the power planes, reschedule that at another time. So we'll just see what we can fit in here. But you know, my biggest thing is that as a woodworker, you know, I don't have all the tools that I want, and I don't have all the tools that I need. Hand planes have always been low on my list, but after working with these guys over the last couple of years, you know, these guys are using hand planes, and I've seen some really neat things online where, you know, guys are shaving end grain off and stuff, and I haven't been real exposed to that. I mean, to be honest, I have a plane just about like this one. I have two of them. One's in pieces. That just stays in my go-to box. But I've used them, but not a whole lot. So I've been really looking forward to having Dwayne talk about these. So he's just going to talk about his collection and how he uses them. We're going to maybe touch a little bit on sharpening, but we do have another sharpening seminar, I think towards the end of April, that we'll cover, and a guy named Vince that used to work here is going to cover that. So with that, we'll turn it over to Dwayne, and Dwayne, I'll try and ask you as many stupid questions as I can.
I'll try to provide as many stupid answers as I can.
All right. All right.
Well, thanks for showing up. I guess my first question is, how many here have any kind of hand plane? Okay, good. And how many use them?
About half, then.
About half, okay. So hand planes, if you know, have been around for literally thousands of years. They think the Egyptians maybe were the first to kind of use hand planes or something similar. They found an old Roman hand plane that dates back to the couple of thousand years ago, and 79 AD were found in Pompeii. And so hand planes have been around for a long time, for anything from shaping rough lumber to joining to obviously planing boards flat. So this is my collection. I'm not a collector. I don't want tools that just sitting around taking up dust. I got enough of those.
So you've convinced the wife that you use all these all the time?
Yeah, I do.
So that's the first step.
Yeah. Well, and I like them for projects because less noise and less dust, and I figure people have been making wood projects for thousands of years without use of power tools. If they can do it, why can't I?
Absolutely.
So I use, probably the planes I use the most are this low angle block plane and probably my number 4 Stanley plane. I just recently, a year or so, bought this number 62 low angle block plane from Veritas. Added that, and it's a piece. It's a nice piece. But I've used all of these at some point, with the exception of this one. This is the newest one I bought, a shoulder plane. Haven't had a chance to use it yet, but that's kind of what I do. When I started woodworking, this was the first plane I bought. There's it's just a Sears Craftsman plane. I think I paid 10 or 12 bucks for it. Just a regular block plane, and it's been a really good plane for the money. What I've noticed when using planes over the years is, I'll say this Sears blade and this Veritas, and these 4 planes are the only planes I've ever bought new. All these others are used. You can find good bargains online. I've paid as little as $3 for a number 4. I think I paid for this joiner plane, I think I paid $20, $25. And I just rehab them, I clean them up, and I just use a Dremel with a wire brush to get most of the rust off, and then maybe some steel wool. The only trouble I've ever had, I had a number 5 where the blade, once I cleaned it up, the blade was so bad I had to chuck it, and I bought a new blade for it. But usually you just can reuse the same blade, and you can buy new blades if you need to. And feel free to ask questions anytime, just jump in.
So how do they size the planes?
Okay, so the numbering system we kind of know came from Stanley. And just another little brief history. First of all, planes start out as wooden planes with an iron cutter.
Kind of maybe
Something similar to that.
This is probably a really refined piece.
This is a little newer one. They didn't have this Norris style adjusting knob. You did it by tapping with a hammer or your hand to set the depth. And so planes were wooden. It wasn't until
kind of like this.
Yeah.
Where you got a wedge in there.
And you'd take sometimes they have a special plane hammer, but you could tap it and that adjusts the depth.
Okay.
So from there, somewhere probably around Roman times, they started using more metal bodies. Usually it would have a wooden base, but this part down here would be wooden, and then this part up here would be metal. And then, of course, they developed as man got more sophisticated. We got into irons, and so a guy named Edwin Bailey kind of perfected the modern plane as we know it. And he eventually was bought out by the Stanley Tool Company. So you'll see Stanley Bailey planes. Edwin was the guy that kind of had all the parts together, and I'll go over those in a little bit for the planes. So that's kind of how the number. So they start with, in the numbering system Stanley kind of came up with. And you can get a number 1 up to a number 8 as far as regular bench planes. And then they have all kind of specialty planes like this. This is a little bullnose plane, a shoulder plane. Some of these planes, I wish I had a router plane, but I don't yet. And those have different numbers. This jack plane is called a number 62. Stanley came up with those, and so that's how the numbering system kind of came about. It's just kind of a way to identify.
Sure.
And that will also tell you the size of the plane, the length, and the size of the blade that you're going to have to cut with.
Okay.
And then from there you have people will say, well, I want to use a hand plane. And I think, great, so they'll say, well, what plane do I need? Well,
yeah, that'd be my biggest question is if I'm just getting started out, obviously a lot of people gravitate towards this, which is just a good general purpose plane.
And like I said, this is what I started off with. It's a good plane for cleaning up saw marks on the edges of boards. You're not going to flatten a board with this. It's also a good plane for doing champers, like on the edge here, if you just need to add a quick champer. You don't have to pull out a router or anything special. If you want to get really picky with the champer, I have taken like a combination square and measured from the edge, both sides, and then you plane to that line. Then you've got a chamfer. Usually a good idea to start, if you're going to do that on all 4 edges of a board, it's a good idea to start with the end grain on both ends first, because you're going to get some tear out on that back side, and then clean them up as you come around. Another way to avoid tear out, or especially if you're doing end grain, is to come in from both sides. So start on this side, then come back on this side. And that way you don't get the tear out like there's a little bit of stuff there.
That's a router mark.
Yeah, I can see that. But that's one way to avoid that. So if you're going to start out, I suggest it doesn't have to be a great plane. Like I said, I paid $9 or $10 for this at Sears at the time. This one is a nicer one from Lee Valley, their Veritas line. Veritas and Lee Nielsen are kind of two of the top brands of planes, along with Clifton and Kuntz. Kuntz is a German company that makes planes.
What do you call that plane, that second one?
This is a low angle block plane. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can get that, Mark. This one has a higher, you can tell here it's higher up than this. This has a 45-degree bed. This one has a 12-degree bed. You add that plus the angle of the plane, and that's where you get your degree. So the lower the angle, you get more of a slicing motion, which is really good for in-grain, especially if you're trying to clean up in-grain on the end of a board, or if you're just doing simple champers. This low-angle jack plane, you can also use. They make good shooting boards. I don't know if some of you may have had a shooting board where you can, we don't have a piece of wood, do we? Just a, well,
Looking for like a
yeah, just a small
scraps.
piece, yeah. Yeah, this is
work?
fine.
Okay.
So if you've got a board and say you need to tweak the edge, they make a shooting board, and you put it down and you hold your plane this way and you just shoot, especially for in-grain. So you definitely want a low angle plane, and a plane like this is good because it's got a lot of mass. So you can trim that board. That's how you're tweaking your joints. Really good for 45s if you're doing miters.
Like if you're just trying to.
Yeah, you're
Get 'em
not
to
trying
fit tight.
you're not trying to shape it. You're just trying to make that joint nice.
Sure.
Yeah.
That also, back in the good old days, was used to flatten out butcher blocks,
Yeah.
meat cutting
Yep.
lockers and stuff.
Yep.
Is a shooting board something you've ever had in your shop?
Oh
then,
yeah.
or-
Yeah. Yeah, I've used it several times.
Okay.
You know, because, well, if you're like me, you think your tools are set up square, and you cut and you put together, and then you've got that
Yeah.
small gap, and while nobody else may notice it, it drives you crazy. So
Right.
that's what the shooting board is for.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
A question over here?
Yeah, going back to your rehabbing,
sure.
your rehabbing them, do you ever have any problems with the flatness on the bottom? Do you have to do anything, or is there something you?
Well, so far, I have not. However, I brought this little engineer square because one of the things you'll want to check if you buy a plane is this sole here. Is that square? And I don't know how close you see, but we don't see any daylight along the length of this. So it's square to the side, which is good. Like I say, if you're going to do shooting, you need that 90-degree square. If the sole of the plane is not flat, and I had one that was not, I couldn't figure out one time I was working on the edge of a board, and so I put my square up to it, and there's a gap, like a 32nd of an inch. And I thought, well, it must be something I'm doing wrong, so I kept at it. No matter what I did, I kept getting this little gap. So then I decided to check the sole to the side of the plane, and this plane was off from one side to the other, and so it's sitting in a toolbox somewhere for parts.
There's not really any way to save that then, is there? Unless you took it to a machine
Yeah,
shop or something
the
like
only
that.
way is to take it to a machine shop and have it ground flat. Yes, sir.
There is another way you can do that too. Take a like granite plate and use adhesive emery paper
Oh, yeah?
and just simply slide it across that thing very carefully. And you can flatten the base on them. I've done that to show
Okay.
the plane.
Just kind of slowly.
How would you get it flat if you've got, this slight angle? How do you know you're getting it flat?
but it'll show you where you're rubbing.
Okay,
And you have to pay very close attention. You put pressure in different places.
right, okay,
The one thing you do want to do, if you do that, be sure you have your blade and everything in there the way you're going to use the plane.
okay, that makes
Don't have
sense.
the blade extended.
Right, obviously, yes, right.
You want it all connected so that when all the pressures are together, it'll flatten the way you want it. It's not a fast process.
No,
Trust me.
yeah.
It takes you a while,
Well.
but it can be done. I've done it on a piece of 1/4-inch plate glass.
Yeah.
Okay.
What kind of grit do you start with on something like that
Depends
then?
on how bad it is. Now, some things can't be saved because
Sure.
they're
Yeah.
too far gone.
Yeah.
But usually I started out around 240 or higher,
Okay.
or somewhere in that neighborhood. And you can go up to 1200 if you want to get real fancy with it, but you don't really have to as a rule.
Sure.
Okay,
You're going to go up to around 600, maybe 800 at the most.
Yeah. At that point, you start polishing it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I say, you can start pretty coarse with it to get the gross part off
Right.
if it's bad.
Great idea.
That
Yep.
is.
okay, cool, good stuff.
It's good to use an old pane of glass,
Yeah,
pane of glass, and you can also make a little jig where you set up where like 1/64th, 1/32, but a lot of people buy these hand planes on eBay or whatever. They're buying an old Stanley Bedrock or something.
Yep.
And it's warped too much, and it's a nice paperweight.
yes, that's about it. Yeah, the
I would
display.
tell people buy the absolute best tool you can afford.
Yeah.
Gets rid
Yeah.
of the frustration level.
Yep,
Yeah. It pays back every time you use
Oh, it's
it.
cheaper in the long run.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
your wife doesn't shoot you first.
Well, you're still here.
yeah,
Have your shop 5 to 7 miles from your house. It eliminates all that.
I'm an retired Army officer. I'm used to taking around.
All right.
so on the kind of the subject of rehabbing planes, we'll kind of touch some of the parts. So you have, of course, the sole, the tote, which is a handle. Most of you guys know this, and the front knob. And then you have this little cam lever here that holds down the blade. So when I'm cleaning, I'm just taking this all apart, everything. This is the frog here. And there are 2 screws in this one that allow you to move that frog in and out to open and close the mouth of the plane. And so depending on whether you're trying to remove a lot of material or a little, you'll maybe adjust this frog. I kind of have set it and forget it because I've got some other planes that can do that, but that's what those do. So when I'm rehabbing, I take this all apart, go over it with steel wool. I use a little Dremel with a wire brush or a brass bristle brush and clean it all up. And then I'll wipe it down with some, it's called jojoba or jojoba oil to keep it from rusting. And then you just put it all back together. Sharpening the blade should take off. Oh, another tool you'll want to have handy is, and you can buy special plane screwdrivers, or you can just get a little stubby screwdriver like this for $2, and this just loosens this nut here. And so there's your plane iron, and this is your cap iron, goes over your cap. When you're sharpening, you want to establish your main bevel, which I use 30 degrees. You can use 25, just kind of depends on your personal preference. And then for a long time I heard about a back bevel, which I'm sure most of you guys know about. And well, if my plane's sharp, why do I need the little back bevel? Well, I finally tried it and it works, so I've been doing that. So that adds another 5 degrees on. I don't know how well you can see it on this one,
Yeah, for those who don't know about it, explain exactly what
It-
the back bevel is.
It makes a difference in your chisels and planes when you're pairing with chisels and moving that plane along. It just kind of gives, when it hits that wood fibers, it just gives it a little oomph, I guess is the best way I could describe it. And then it gets into the main bevel and just makes it easier to use. Don't ask me about the science of it. I don't know. I just know it works.
So rather than having one bevel along
Yeah.
the plane, you've got multiple.
You just kind of got a second bevel, yeah.
Correct.
And
Favorite rust remover?
I really haven't used a rust remover on any of these. I've just taken a Dremel, like I said, a Dremel tool, and cleaned out the rust. They have those little wire wheels, and then there's brass ones and there's plastic ones. And that's kind of my progression. If they're really bad, the only bad thing is with the wire wheels, they can, like on this one, you can see it'll take off some of the paint. I didn't get all the rust off of this, but I'm not trying to make it brand new. I'm just trying to get it in working condition. So that's, I know you can use rust inhibitors, rust removers.
Do you ever use vinegar?
I have not. I've heard of that. I've heard you can use a mixture of vinegar and lemons because of the acids in both will help remove rust.
Just don't leave it on.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to get the plane in working order, so I don't go through a whole lot with it. I just want to get the vast majority or as much rust off it as possible, and then I do wipe it down with this oil that I have. You could use WD-40 or some kind of lightweight machine oil. And I think most of these are original plane blades that came with the plane. This one might be a new one though, because it looks fairly new. Most of you have heard of Hawk Tools. They sell plane irons. They recently retired, and so they sold their business to Lee Valley. And so you can still find Hawk blades. Just got to go to leevalley.com and get them. So once you get your plane cleaned up, you're going to put it back together with the cap iron, and then the trick here is to do, I better put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. You want to get it within like a 1/16 to a 32nd of an inch, kind of something about like that. And I try to hold it real good so I don't move it. Tighten it up. And now these are bench planes, so they're sometimes called bevel down, because here's the bevel on the plane, and so we're putting it in the plane this way. It's beveled down, and so you'll hear that sometimes. And then you just put that back on here, and your cap iron back on. And you want to, I don't know how well you can see that, but you want to try to get it square to the mouth. And this one doesn't have it, so you kind of have to do it manually. This number 5 has a little lever here, so if your blade is crooked in the mouth, you just tweak this to get it square. Not all planes have that. So that's kind of what I do. I clean up the handles. I don't, as you can see, I don't polish them or anything. I just get the dirt and the rust off of them. And that's, in the knobs. On some of these, I've taken out the screws because they were rusty. Again, that little Dremel does a good job of cleaning up the rust off the threads and putting it back together. And that's pretty much my rehab process. I try to keep it simple. Yes.
You were saying that you put the back bevel on it. Do you strop your blades once you've sharpened them?
I've started doing that, and that can make a little bit of a difference too. Like a little honing rouge, and the hard part for me was finding a piece of leather. I don't know why that was so hard, but yes, that's another option. I didn't for a long time, and I've had pretty good results with it. But yes, Ken.
The difference between the collector's approach to planes and the user's approach to planes. We hear from the collectors, oh gosh, don't do that when you're trying to rehab an old plane. Do you have a way of balancing that, or wisdom on that one?
I don't, because like I said earlier, I don't want to collect planes. I don't want something I'm not going to be able to use in my shop. That said, yes, you could say I'm collecting planes, but I'm not out there looking for the ideal number 3 plane in original condition. It's still got the box and all that. Those are out there.
I don't know, Dwayne.
They cost a lot of money.
Nice.
Yeah, that is pretty nice. And that's a new one.
Are we gonna have to edit that out, this part? Or does the wife know that you have this?
I never thought of that. I didn't think that part through.
Yeah. Well,
At any
we'll
rate,
have you watch the video first. and
Yeah,
we can
we'll do a little.
Take that out. Take that out.
No, but like I say, I don't collect them. I see guys that have a ton of planes. Most of them are collectibles, and I'm not much of a collector. I don't really collect anything except extra weight, but because I like to eat. But yeah, so that's kind of my take on it. I mean, I've read that too, where if you're collecting a plane, you don't want to do this, or if you're restoring. I know guys that'll restore planes pretty much back to mint condition, and they go through the trouble of finding the right paint. I think there's a certain paint. You guys that have been around longer than me can probably know there's a certain paint they would use. Isn't it called Japanning or something? Yeah. That they used on the body of the planes. Or I know I've read some or seen some collectors, they just, they got it. That's the way it is. And that's the value of it to them.
That new one, that's a shoulder plane?
Yes.
Is that for cleaning out rabbits and stuff? Or?
Rabbits, dados, cleaning up tenon shoulders, tenons.
Do you vary the plane that you're using relative to soft and hardwoods? Or is it just kind of like, I need to take a little bit off, but it doesn't matter whether it's softwood or hardwood?
I don't make too much of a distinction between softwood and hardwood as far as using a particular plane. The only thing I would, if I'm going to do a hardwood, I would just make sure I would probably sharpen my blade first, because it's going to dull quicker. And when you're setting your depth on your plane, usually you'll want to loosen this, and then there's an adjustment knob right here that controls the plane going in and out. And there's a lot of different ways, but here's what works for me. I like to sit it down on a flat surface or the board, and then I use this adjustment knob to advance as much as I can. Now, some guys will do it this way and sight down. I don't know why. I think I have trouble. I don't know why that doesn't work too well for me, and I've tried it. But once you get it where you want, let's see, this one isn't cooperating as well. Here. Let's try this one. Yeah, that one's so. once I kind of get it close, now you can kind of look down here, and if you can see, that one's not level all the way across. I've got one side deeper than the other. So that's where you're going to want to move the plane iron in and out. Yeah. And I kind of, you probably shouldn't do this, but I kind of run my finger here just to make sure I can feel it. And then I will
We'll edit that out too.
yeah. Then I will put it on my wood, and then I start. I'm left-handed, so for those that are right-handed, forgive me. But once I get it on the board, I just kind of start going, and then I just kind of slowly turn this, maybe an eighth of a turn, to advance the blade. Matter of fact, I'm catching something on here. So it's starting to engage the wood. And then you just go till you get to the desired depth. And that's kind of how I do that.
So ease into it.
Yeah, don't try to take a full shaving. Now, there have been times where I was flattening a board, and you do want to take a deeper cut. But even then, I don't think you want to go much more than 3/30 seconds. If that much. And then depending on the wood, that's going to determine, how much effort you want to put into it, because you'll get a good workout. I had, let's see, I guess, I had a board about this size, but it was probably about this long, and it had twist in it. And so what I did was, I thought, well, I could use a planer, but I thought, I got these hand planes. I'll just flatten this. And so I think I got out this 5.5 or 5. And what I did,
like that?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So what I did is I took some shims. Well, first, so we know that here and here are high spots. And so what I did was I shimmed this up level, and then I started planing the high spots. And I kind of go at it sort of at an angle to clean up those high spots. And as I get this more closer, then I start coming this way, going with the grain, and eventually you'll start getting full shavings. But you got to work on your high areas first, and then you just need to test it periodically. You're going to take it, twist it. Now this side is kind of flat, but so that's how you're going to flatten a board like this. You got to shim it up, flatten it, eventually, and that's where your longer sole comes in, because this short sole, and you can kind of, we'll just kind of go to extreme. As you're moving along this way, as this blade is cutting, this long sole helps get rid of all the high spots, and then you're eventually going to get it down to where you're going to get nice full shavings. And then once you get to this point, you can drop down to a number 4, which they call a smoothing plane, and that's when you're going to start really kind of getting to where you're wanting to almost polish the wood. And it takes a lot of practice. I planed a lot of board just to try to get, you see these guys on YouTube, they're getting these nice thin little wispy shavings. They make it look so easy, so you think I can do that. You go downstairs and you're like, but it takes a lot of practice. And then you can end up with your smoothing plane. And if you can get to a point where I've done this with a few boards, you don't really even have to sand. You just get a nice smooth area. Another thing when planing, this is probably a good example, depending on whether you're planing the edge or the face, is reading the grain direction. And you want to plane with the grain. This one's bad. This grain's going every which way. But I'll use this side because you can kind of see. But if you were to plane this board, you can kind of see where the grain is kind of moving up. And that's the direction you want to plane. If you go the other way, you're going to get tear out. And you'll know because you'll catch something and it won't be smooth. It'll catch, it'll rip out pieces of the wood, which is not what you want. So grain direction is important when you're planing on the face or the edge of the board. On this side of this board here, I would probably just start to see which way is the best way to go. Because sometimes you can't tell, and the only way to tell is to just start planing.
Take a pass at it.
And once you start engaging the wood, it'll let you know if you're going the right way. And it could be that you might have to come in from this way and this way. And this is where the angle of the blade, along with the frog in this case, or if you've got the low angle jack plane, you get a higher angle. On the bevel up, you'll get a higher angle. This makes it a lot easier to work with the figured wood so that you get a nice smooth finish on it. And I brought some of these other planes. This is what they call, depending on what country you're from, the French called it a philister or a rabat. English call it rebate, which is kind of what I call it, or you can call it a rabbit. It's kind of a rabbit. It's a combination plane that you can use to make rabbets on the end or edges of boards. And it's kind of a bullnose plane because you can put your blade in either of these two positions.
Huh, that's interesting.
I've used this a couple of times just for fun. And actually it works pretty good. You can get pretty accurate results with this. Let's see. It has, and I'm missing a piece I discovered as I was, and I don't know what happened to it. This is a shoe, or not a shoe, but a attachment that fits into a rod that would screw into this screw here. But this allows you to adjust the width of your rabbet, and then this little shoe you adjust to the depth of your rabbet. And the best way to set that is just to take a combination square, like a 6-inch combination square or a T-square, set your depth. If you want 1/4 inch, just set it to a 1/4 inch. You're gonna come in here and set this to a 1/4 inch, set this to a 1/4 inch, and then you're gonna start on the edge of your board planing until you don't get any shavings. And the nice thing about this is you can kind of get up tight into corners with this little bullnose effort here. I have this little small plane. I think I paid $5 for it. Didn't have to do anything to this, but it's been real handy for cleaning out rabbits and that kind of thing. Used it a few times. I don't know what else you'd want to know.
I have a quick question. So, like, let's say you're using plugs, screws and plugs for joinery or something like that, or, there's different ways to trim plugs off. There's flush trim saws and all that kind of thing. But right at that very end, even if you flush trim it, quite often there's just a little bit sticking up, for me, I'd take a piece of sandpaper and a wooden block and clean it up. But is that something that you have done with the hand plane?
Yes, I've done that with plugs. I prefer to use just probably, it depends. I'm either probably going to use this low angle block plane, or I might use this plane if it's a bigger board. Generally, I'm going to use a block plane. And I'm just gonna, if we got a plug here, I'm just gonna, get it close On hardwood, it's not so bad, but I will tell you that if you're using plywood and you've got a plug and you start to get close,
Right.
and on a couple of projects, I'm doing this and I go, I can do one more pass. And of course, I cut into the veneer on the plywood, and one of them was so bad I had to replace the piece because I had my plane blade a little deeper than I thought, and it cut it up. But I like doing that. Box joints, dovetails.
Sure.
You know, you want to sometimes leave them a little proud. I prefer to use a hand plane. What I would do there is I'm going to use the hand plane to get them very close, and then I'm going to finish up with sanding because, again, it'd be too easy to go too deep. You know, just when you think you can take one more pass, that's when you shouldn't. And so I'm going to...
So you're just using the hand plane to get it 95% there, 90%
Exactly.
there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, I was just going to say, if you had a box, like a small box, and if you're doing, you know, sometimes, again, we're joining, and this is a good over-exaggeration, but you want these corners to be level, and sometimes, despite our best efforts, they're not. That's another good use for a hand plane to kind of come along and make that level.
Just bring that
Just
down
bring
to the
that
level
down.
of the other one.
Again, be careful because you don't want to go too low, but at least get it close and then sand it smooth. What did you?
I was just wondering what you find the best way to use to like hold your wood.
Okay.
Hold it still.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
Like
Right.
Great question.
clamps or
Clamps don't work too well because you're going along, and if you've got this clamp, then I've got to go here, then I've got to stop and remove the clamp. So the best way to clamp is to, Veritas makes this, I can't remember what they call it. It's like a dog hole, but it's got a piece on the end of it, fits in the dog hole, and you can adjust it. And then with the dog, you just butt this up here, you tighten this up, and that holds it really good. I have, Rockler has a little device called a planing stop. Veritas does too. Basically what it does is it's got holes, it's a piece of metal that's got holes in it, or that has a slot so you can adjust it to your dog hole size, and it just fits in between your dog holes. So you can put that there, and it's really good. It's also about 1/4 of an inch thick, so generally you're not planing much lower than that, so that you don't run your plane into that. I have on one occasion before I got some of these tools, my bench is wider than this, but I took a big old clamp and just clamped a board all the way across. And then I took my other little clamp and butted it up against here. And again, I'm left-handed, so I'm going this way. And that way you're pushing up against the wood to hold it.
You can see my bench stop right here.
Yep, so
It's just a
that would
clamp.
work.
So
That would work as well.
Yeah.
And again, Veritas makes this adjustable dog hole clamp. I can't remember what they call
Yeah.
it, but
And
I think we've got one out there.
well, we just got some Miles Craft
Craft
stuff
is-
like that in. They fit into the dog holes, and then there's like a little thing you rotate, and it
Yeah.
puts pressure up against
Yeah,
it.
Craig
So
has
there's-
one too.
Yeah, there's stops.
Stops
and-
that you can
and those
use that fit
clamps,
in your
so-
dog holes
Yep.
to hold the pieces. And that now I have on long boards that where I've wanted to clean up the edge. I've got my vise is on the left side of the bench, and I bought a Craig clamp that I put on this side down here, and so I can clamp a long board, and the Craig has those one hold down clamps that I just clamp the board in here. That way I can hold it, and I can plane a long board on the side of the bench. That's where the leg vices kind of come in
Right.
handy. If you've
Right.
got big boards that you need to plane, those come in handy for that.
Yeah.
So if you're just starting out, would you say a couple if you wanted to start with, like that number 4 smoothing plane and that low angle?
I would get a low angle block plane and the number 4, and that's going to do most of the stuff you're going to need. And like the gentleman said there, if you can afford it, I would get a low angle block plane, and then I'd get this plane, this number 62. And I haven't done this yet, but I'll probably get a couple of blades with different angles on that. This is nice because you can loosen this knob, and I don't know if you can kind of see how that moves in and out, so you can close up the throat. If you're wanting to remove a lot of stock, you want to open the throat. If you want thin shavings, you want to close the throat. So that's kind of nice. Another nice thing that this plane, the Veritas and the Lee Nielsen's and some of the higher ends, if you can see on the side here, on this side and on this side, there's a couple of set screws that holds your blade straight in the mouth. So you don't have to, once you set that, you don't have to worry about, it getting kiltered or skewed or anything. So those are kind of nice features to have as well. But
that looks like a relatively low angle block plane.
it is, and it does a great job.
For smoothing out?
We're smoothing out. If I were taking a rough piece of wood and trying to get it smooth, or at least even get it ready to put in a thickness planer, I'd probably start with this or this number 5 and get it as close to flat as I could, and then joint it and then plane it.
Yeah, it seems like a number 5 is a pretty common one that people buy.
4s and 5s are pretty common. They also make 4.5s and 5.5s. If you've got one or the other, you don't need a 4 and a 4.5, in my opinion, or a 5 or a 5.5. They're just, the half size is going to be just a little bit longer on the sole, and but the width is going to be pretty much the same.
I work down all my tops and stuff along those lines, and I do a lot of guitars, so we're talking 3/16 and everything, whatever. But I hog stuff off with usually a scrub of 40.5, a 40.5, I forgot, and then work down the numbers.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't mention there. A scrub plane is, your blade is at almost an inverted angle. And like he said, you're just really trying to remove material to get it to a point. It'll do a good job, almost kind of like a spoke shave almost. But yeah.
If we had another 3 hours, you could probably cover sharpening irons.
Yeah, they're going to test that. I brought this in because, starting out, I didn't know anything like most of us, and I gotta turn it around this way. And so you got to learn how to sharpen, because sharp tools and sharp kitchen knives are your friend. So I talked to, I think we had a guy here named Randy Chalfant. Some of you, if you've been there, shopped here long enough, may have known him. He and another guy, Randy Maxey, got me started on hand planes. And of course, they said you got to learn how to sharpen. So, and then doing a little research, this is, I had a guy on Craigslist that was selling this 1/4-inch plate glass. He had like 4 or 5 pieces. I think I paid, I don't know what I paid, 30, 40 bucks for him. And this is plate glass. It's flat. You can use granite if you got a cut off piece of granite, anything flat. Some guys will use their table saw. I don't like putting sticky stuff on my table saw, so I refuse to do that. But basically, I just have taken several different grits. These are about 3 inches wide, and I think I've started at about 100 here, and I've gone up to about 2,000. And because I didn't know I didn't trust myself, doing this with the plane iron, because, I don't know, you want it to be that bevel flat. So I bought this honing guide from Lee Valley, Veritas honing guide, which really works great. This is called the Deluxe, and then they make it's called the Deluxe 2 now. But this consists of the honing guide. This is your setup piece. Let's see, yeah. The yellow marks are for plane irons or standard sharpening. The red ones are for high angle, the green ones for the back bevel. And so you pick your degree here depending on the number of your angle you want, and then you put your chisel or hand plane, you butt it up against this, and then and then there's a little bar here that slides in here. If I can hold this there. And then you get it kind of in the center, and you tighten this knob down. Your chisel or your plane iron comes through here, and once you get this set up, you tighten these down, take this off, and now you're good to go. And really all you're doing is just going back and forth. And it's got this nice flat roller here. The new Deluxe 2 model, they give you a couple of these. One has a flat roller like this, and then another one is slightly oval or ovular in that it's kind of like a caul where the ends are about a 1/16 off of the center. Because if you're flattening a board in particular, you can get plain streaks, marks, from your blade just being square. So what some guys will do is kind of put a slight camber on the edge, and that allows you to kind of flatten your board without getting those planing marks. So the other guide that comes with this, it allows this to kind of rock back and forth more or less. And you can get that camber edge along the time. So that's how I started sharpening. Eventually I bought a tool called a work sharp that the bums quit making for no apparent reason. Yes, sir.
Do you recommend, when you're going to be doing a lot of planing, to have several blades pre-sharpened so that as you're planing and you start to get dull, you're not having to stop and sharpen, but you just simply replace?
You could do that. I don't. That's why I have that Work Sharp 3000. Then the reason my grandfather, he used water stones, and I remember him sharpening his pocket knives and stuff, or sometimes he'd just spit on it, and that's what he did, but it worked. He had sharp knives. I did not want to fool with water because you got to keep water stones wet, and want to fool with oil stones. They're messy.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough money to buy a Tormac or the Jet type Tormac. I just want to sharpen and go back to work. And so Work Sharp came out with a machine that had a little 6-inch platter, and it was dry sharpening, but it was air cooled. And it works great. I know Kim's got one. I think Dave Larson has one. It's a great tool. If I'm working, and you can tell when your plane iron starts to get dull because you'll have to put a little more effort into it. I love it. I can go over to my Work Sharp, spend 10 minutes max, if that long, and just touch it up and go back to work. No mess, no water, no nothing. Yes, sir.
That's the point of that right there. And
this would do the same thing,
exactly. Yes. I always do a quick one before I start planing, and when I'm working, I just take it out real quick and do a quick strop, and it's bang, bang. Especially if you set up the angle correctly and
the initial angle.
Yeah.
You'll find that people over sharpen things.
Oh yeah.
Just sanding.
Yeah. You don't need to.
One quick, 2 quick passes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And do it quick.
And if I'm touching up a blade with this setup, I'm not going back all the way down here. I'm going to start somewhere in here or here. And like he said, I'm just going to do a couple of passes, move on to the next.
Get the burr off.
get the burr off, and then you're going to take the back part of your plane. I'll just use this as an example, and you're just going to roll that back and forth to get that burr off.
If you had two sharp blades ready, one gets dull, you switch it out. I think that was the question.
Yeah.
What, are you afraid that's gonna do something different?
No.
I did.
No.
But I'll
Like to
let 'em
sharpen
know.
the same one?
Yeah, I just use the same one. I mean, you're going to do whatever works for you.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong. If that works for you, then yeah.
What'd you say you did with that piece of leather?
The piece of leather, you can put it on a piece of MDF, probably about the same size as this. Just stick that leather on there, charge it with your honing rouge, and then all you take is, now I've seen guys, I don't use this, they'll take, we'll pretend this is a chisel, and usually what you'll do is you'll just kind of hold it, get that angle, and then I've just seen them draw. That's kind of how I do it. You just kind of draw it back a couple of times. You're not doing it several times to get that final sharpness. Kind of like the barber used to do for those that were old enough back in the day. He'd pull off that razor and zip zop, and
You were cleaned up.
you were cleaned up. Or as we get older, we just say to heck with it and don't shave. It's biblical, in my opinion.
Hard to find leather anymore.
I had a hard time finding the right piece.
Belts and all these
People
things.
gave me these little scraps of leather, and one, obviously it had been cut out. Well, this is useless, I had a hard time finding just a relatively square or a large enough scrap piece that I could cut square to use.
Saddle shop in Aiken. They probably have leather.
Yeah, that's a good place to find.
Yeah.
There's a place on the north side of town that sells leather.
Yeah. Which?
The Leather Factory.
Oh, where's that?
Over by the Baumgars on 14th.
Oh, okay.
Western wear.
Yeah, Western wear.
The saddles.
There used to be a place on Grand out in West Des Moines, was a tack shop for like horses and stuff. And
Oh, sure.
I even went there and they didn't have anything I could use. But I found something eventually. Any other, yes?
Do you use like a wax or a crayon?
Oh, yes. This is just beeswax. Because you do want to make sure your sole is, and all I do is I just kind of take this and charge it. And then as you're planing, you'll leave a little bit. There's some on there, not much. But as you're planing, the friction will heat that up and keep your sole slippery. So that's, you can use,
Good idea.
I've had some guys say they use candle wax. Paul Sellers is a guy I follow, English guy. He has and I thought about making this one, but he's got a little, I don't know, like tuna can, and I can't remember what kind of oil he puts into it, but he takes a rag, wounds it up really tight, and stuffs it in this tuna can, and then he lets it soak, pours oil on it, lets it soak for several days. And so he can just take that can and he just rubs it back and forth on his plane. So that's another way you can do it. I think Rob Cosman has something similar. I think he has a rag that he's got charged. I don't know if you guys that do YouTube, Rob Cosman is a guy I follow, and he's into hand tools. And he does something similar just to wipe that sole to keep it
I
slippery.
think he's got complete courses and stuff.
Yeah, he has.
take.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
So
very in depth.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yes.
Not a paid political announcement, but if you're interested in old-time woodworking like the 1870s, one of my former students, Robbie Peterson, Jefferson, has a 1876 RFP.
Yeah, I know who you're talking. It's in Jefferson.
Makes everything by hand. There's no electrical tools. And all the case work is hand cut dovetail. And he can whip out a dovetail point.
He can.
If you need a casket, he'll fix you up the same day. Dining
Remember that.
You name it, chairs, we've got a lot of
Yeah.
that are made
Yeah.
in restaurants. I mean,
He,
pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
When we were at the old store, he came in a couple of times for the Thursday night seminars and presented. It was fun to watch. Yeah, he can whip out a dovetail and like that.
He has, right now, 2 weeks ago, I stopped in, had over 600 planes.
Yeah.
Wow.
All original, nothing
Yeah.
new.
Jeez.
He's got planes that do like OGs on the edge of boards.
Oh, he's making moldings.
Bead
and stuff.
molding and
Yeah.
all kinds of fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a customer came in at the old store and he inherited, his dad had passed away, and so he said, I got all these wooden planes. I don't know what to do with them. I'm not sure what they are. So he was trying to describe them. I said, well, do you mind if I come over and look at them? So I went over and he had a box full of these old wooden planes that had the plane irons in them. Well, they were planes for kind of like what Robbie does for different creating. Prior to routers, you would just take an iron and you'd probably cut the shape you wanted and then sharpen it. And they were similar to a shoulder plane. And so you would just go along the edge of your board and cut that profile. And he had a box of them, and I asked him what he wanted. At the time, it was more than I wanted to spend. And he came in again several months later, and he still had them. And now I wish I had bought them, but he did sell them eventually. Yes.
Do you use pull plane versus push plane?
I have not. But I have taken this plane, or some of my planes, and turned them around and pulled them.
Oh.
And that can work as effective, especially if you, like the piece of walnut there where you've got grain that's going every which way. Rather than come around here and for me try to do it right-handed, which I can kind of do, it's kind of easier just to go this way and then turn the plane around and then just pull it. And that way. So you can pull these as well as push them.
It's really good for fine adjustments also.
Yeah.
You get like a little number one, I use that a lot.
Yeah.
You would think, why would you use a little number one? But I use it just because it fits in my hand and I can look down there and pull and make really fine adjustments.
Yeah.
That's with a big one.
Last time I looked for number one, I couldn't find one that I wanted to pay for. It's a rare. Number one or number twos are kind of rare.
Is that not something they manufacture anymore?
Veritas, and I don't know if Lee Nielsen does per se, but Veritas in their line of planes, they don't use the Stanley numbering system, but if you read the description, they'll say comparable to a Stanley number one. They've got a little small plane.
Gotcha.
But again, we're talking Veritas, and
some money.
It's going to cost you a little bit of money to get a new one. Which I'll say this about the Lee Valley Veritas: twice a year, if you're on their email list, or sometimes they'll show it on their website, but if you're on their email list, they do what's called a seconds or a kind of like a scratch and dent sale, and you can save 30-40% sometimes on planes. That's how I got this plane. I think it normally sells for around $170 or $80. I paid $115 or $120 for it. I don't know what the defect is on it. At this point, I don't care. It was, so that's how I got this. So I try to, but if you do that, they usually start at noon Central, 11 Eastern, but noon Central, and you got to be there right if you want to get what you want, because all the good stuff usually goes quick, and then later in the day there'll be some. I kind of got lucky when I got that. I did. I think I had to work that morning.
Don't look at me.
I had to work that morning, and so I couldn't be there when it opened, but I got off at once. I went right home and looked, and it was still there, so I jumped on it.
So you had to work, you had to get approval from Melinda,
Oh,
and then
no,
jump on.
we don't do that.
Oh, that's not what I heard.
Oh, I've had that for a long time, buddy.
Right.
Condition rules.
Yeah,
For giving us the permission.
that's right. Yeah, she's yelled at me a couple of times. It's like, I'm sorry. So, what can you say?
Always easier to ask forgiveness.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, that's one thing here at the Woodsman store, we're always trying to get new products and cover everything, you know, and sometimes we don't always know what we're missing out on or what you guys are missing out on. So we're doing a little research right now. We do want to get, you know, we carry a few of the Stanley planes,
Yep.
and, you know, and you've got an opinion about those.
Yeah.
And there's good pros and cons to them.
Yeah.
But we're going to do some research and we're going to try and stock some more of those things. So if there's something that you guys are interested in, shoot us an email.
Yeah,
So make sure and get a hold of us.
there are
if
some
you have
good
some interest.
medium price planes that work just as well as the high end planes. Again, a lot of it is your setup, you know, and just making sure you have a sharp blade, making sure it's square to the mouth, and Stumpy Nubs. Some of you guys know Stumpy Nubs. He's real into Tay Tools, is their website, and they have a number 4 plane, which would be similar to this, for $100, which isn't bad, that he likes. So there's Wood River, Bench Dog,
Robert Larson. Sorby has some.
Sorby has some.
If you really want to spend some money.
This one isn't that Emeritus or something? Starts with an E, maybe.
Yeah, ECE.
Yeah. That make wooden planes. If you want to try wooden planes, I'll probably try some of those at some point. I'm always concerned with wooden planes that.
This part of it.
Yeah, the sole. But on the other
Have you
hand,
used any wooden planes at all? Do you have any opinion about?
Deutsch, immer Deutsch. Always German. That's about the only advice I can really give you. I use them.
Yeah.
I mainly use Lee Nielsen, but I've got old wooden ones that were sent my way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Still in service.
It goes down to the blade.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
If it's good steel, you can set anything up.
Yeah.
And wood, well, guess what? It's even easier.
to flatten. Yeah.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. Or reflatten if you need to, if it's a bit, or reflatten if you've, you know, it's had some abuse or something. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Have you retrofitted like a Stanley number 3 or 4 with a thicker blade?
Yes.
Is that advantageous?
Yeah, because yes, this. Let's see. Yeah, this blade here. Oh, I gotta take it apart because I can't see it. Oh yeah. So, this blade here is probably what, a 16th or 3/36,
A little
maybe
over a 16th.
thick. Some of the hawk blades, depending on which one you're getting, can be up to an 1/8 inch thick, and that can make a big difference too.
It stops chatter.
Yes. Yep. So, I made the mistake once of buying from Woodcraft this real cheap $12, $13 plane from a company called Groz. I don't know if you've heard GROZ. And somehow the blade, it fell on the floor or something, and the blade got all dinged up, and to the point where I couldn't really use it. So I ordered a hawk blade. Well, the hawk blade was thicker. So when I put it in there with the cap on it, it didn't work. It was just too thick. So I still have that blade, but so what I ended up doing was going over to a grinder and taking that one blade, and I just kind of literally at 90 degrees kind of sharpened it up and then reestablished the bevel on it. and it's a little cheapy block plane. I don't hardly use it at all, but
Make it a scraper.
I could. That's a good idea.
Be nice and full.
Put a nice steep angle on it. Except that it's a low angle, though. I don't know how good that's going to work, but Ken.
If you're looking for a used one, are there things that when you're at the auction or someplace, you're looking through the bin, are there things that you don't mess with one if it's got that?
If it's like super rusty, I probably would avoid it. This one was in fairly good shape when I got it. Kind of look at the blade. Like I say, on the number 5 I bought, the blade was pitted so bad it just was a piece of junk. And so I had to buy a new blade for that. Yeah, just look at the blade, look at the lever cap, this piece here, and make sure it's not real rusty. You'll want to make sure, where is it? I can use this one. You want to make sure you don't have any mark. I would have taken this on these just to make sure this part is flat. You know, just kind of draw that. You're not sharpening it. You're just cleaning it up to make sure that's flat, because you want it to set flat on the blade. Just kind of use your own judgment if it's going to be a whole lot of work, or however you clean them up. There's some I've just turned down. They were just too gross.
What kind of sandpaper do you use?
Most
aluminum
of
oxide or?
Yeah, most of this is what's silicone is wet dry, or no, aluminum oxide. I don't know. It's wet dry sandpaper.
Wet and dry sandpaper.
Same stuff you use on cars. Yeah. Because once you get my work sharp, one of the platters, I have a 400 grit disc, which is really about as coarse as you need, even to clean up an old blade. And once you get that going, then I think you bump it up to what's the next one up is 400, 600, and then it goes up to 3,600 on that work sharp. So I'm kind of just polishing that last set. But here, I started about 100, 120, and then this one's probably 220, and I just went up to about 2,000.
Yeah, for like chisels and stuff, like depending on what I'm working on and what I'm doing and how fast I got to get it done, I'm moving along. Quite often with that work sharp, with the chisels, I'm just taking it to like 1,200.
Yeah.
And it's like I call it good. It's sharp enough to do what I need it to do. And like you said, you can go back, sharpen it real quick, get back to work. And,
That's the nice thing about that work sharp. I don't know why they quit making them. And we sold them here. It was a good selling item.
It sure was.
That Veritas makes a sharpening system similar to that, but it's I can't remember exactly. It's like between $500 and $600 or $600 plus dollars. But it's real similar to that work sharp system if you're familiar with that. Probably a little more involved, but it might be worth the investment. But again, it's a dry sharpening system. And like I said, I just want to work. I don't want to spend time sharpening.
What about, I know we're kind of going down the rabbit hole with sharpening, which we are going to cover in a later seminar, but have you used any of those diamond stones?
I have not.
Those larger ones?
Yeah, and I keep threatening to buy some. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it. And I see some guys use them. There's Well, Stumpy Nubs uses, I think it's Infinity Tools, sells them, and Rockler has something similar. It's a kit where you'll have like 3 different grits, like a 600, a 1200, and a 3000 or something. And it's the same principle as this. You're putting your blade in there and you're just going back and forth. Some guys will spritz them with water. Some guys say use Windex. The thing with the diamond cutting stones is the more you use them, the better they cut. So, and what, say I might do, I don't know, depending on the condition of the blade, I might do anywhere from 5 to 6 to 8 passes on this. You can use maybe 3 or 4 on those diamond plate stones.
It's going to take it off.
It's just going to take it off. They cut, they're pretty aggressive, so you don't need as many strokes to sharpen them.
Have you seen the one Tay Tools has called like G-Sharp or something?
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't know if
Pointing stones that come with it, and it's got a way to set the angle.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like $90 or something like that.
Yeah. The only diamond tools I've had are those little paddle.
The ones on the little sticks.
Stick that I use for router bits. And, and they'll work. Or if you've got garden tools, they're good for that. Sharpening the backside of your loopers or cutters. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dwayne.
Yep. Nice job.